In the quiet outskirts of Atlanta, a woman named Liora walked home from her night shift, her steps slow, her eyes heavy, her uniform smelling of bleach and sweat. Her life had become a loop of survival. But she never complained because she had promised herself that her son Malik would never have the life she had endured. She had carried him through storms, through hunger, through loneliness, and she was determined to carry him all the way to safety. But children do not always see the love that shields them, and Malik was no exception. Malik had grown into a bright teenager, handsome, confident, and full of big dreams. But he had also grown tired of being poor, tired of second-hand clothes, tired of living in a small apartment where the walls were too thin and the fridge was too empty. He saw the other boys at his school wearing new sneakers, driving cars at 16, living in big houses, and the fire of jealousy quietly settled inside him. He felt trapped by the life his mother worked so hard to maintain, and somewhere deep inside he began to resent her. One afternoon, Malik returned from school angry and embarrassed. A group of boys had mocked him for the holes in his shoes and the cheap backpack he carried. They said he looked like someone whose mama cleaned toilets for a living. Malik refused to cry in front of them, but when he got home, the anger exploded at the only person he felt safe to hurt. He stood in front of Liora, who was ironing her old work uniform, preparing for another night shift. And he shouted, "You could have been more, you could have tried harder. Why didn't you give me a better life? I am tired of being poor, tired of living like this." His voice shook with a pain he didn't understand. Liora froze. The iron trembled in her hand. "How do you explain to your child that you gave him everything except comfort, that you traded your youth for his future, that every scar on your hands has his name written on it?" She wanted to scream, she wanted to break, she wanted to hold him tight. But she simply lowered the iron and whispered, "I'm sorry, Malik, I'm trying." But Malik wasn't listening. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. And for the first time, Liora felt something inside her collapse. It wasn't the words that hurt, but the realization that her son had grown into a world where her sacrifices were invisible. That night, she went to work with swollen eyes and an aching chest. Her co-workers noticed, but she smiled, pretending everything was fine. In the bathroom stall, she covered her mouth and cried silently, praying, "God, please, not this, not my son, not after everything." The next day, Malik skipped school and wandered the city. His anger had cooled, but shame took its place. He remembered the look in his mother's eyes, the pain he had caused. He knew she didn't deserve it, but pride kept him from going home. Yet as hours passed, the city felt too big, too loud, too cold, and the only warmth he could think of was his mother's tired smile. At dusk, a soft rain began falling, and Malik found himself walking without direction until he reached the hospital entrance. Confused and worried, he had received a call from a number he didn't recognize. A woman told him his mother had fainted at work and had been brought in. The words hit him like a truck, and he ran breathlessly through the rain, whispering, "Please, God, let her be okay, let her be okay." When he entered the hospital room, he saw his mother lying on a bed, her face pale, her hands trembling, hooked to and for. Her uniform still smelled of cleaning chemicals. A nurse told him exhaustion, dehydration, and stress had pushed her body too far. She needed rest, nutrition, and peace. The shame that wrapped around Malik felt like fire eating him alive. He approached her slowly, unable to speak. Liora opened her eyes weakly. Malik stood there drenched in rain, his face trembling. She reached out with her frail hand and touched his cheek, her voice barely a whisper, "You came." Malik fell to his knees beside the bed. He held her hand, pressed it against his face, and broke down. "Mama, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I didn't understand. I said horrible things I didn't mean." He cried openly, no longer pretending to be strong. He saw the bruises on her arms, the roughness of her hands, the exhaustion etched in her skin. And in that moment, he realized he had never met a stronger person in his life. Liora smiled weakly, brushing his tears with her thumb. "Baby, I only wanted you to fly, even if I had to crawl." She pulled him closer, and Malik felt the warmth of a love that had carried him silently for years. After she recovered, Malik became a different boy. He took a part-time job, he studied harder, he cooked for his mother on her work nights, he walked her to the bus stop and waited for her after shifts. He no longer hid her job from his friends. Instead, he proudly said, "My mother works harder than anyone I know, and one day I am going to give her the life she deserves." Years passed and Malik graduated from college, becoming a social worker dedicated to helping struggling families. He bought his mother a small, beautiful home in a quiet neighborhood with a porch she had always dreamed of. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Malik stood outside watching Liora water the small flowers in her yard. Her back was still tired, her hands still rough, but her smile was softer, brighter, and filled with peace. He walked to her and gently took the watering can from her. "Let me do that, Mama, you've worked enough." She looked at him, and her eyes glistened with pride. "You grew well, my son, better than I ever prayed for." And under the golden fading sunlight, Malik whispered the truth he had finally learned. "Mama, you are the bravest woman I know."